Welcome into your PFF Day 3 review. It's all about the steals of the draft here, Sam. Rounds 4 through 7, there were a ton of good players still on the board and a lot of really interesting and good picks on Day 3 of the draft.
Everybody wants the steal of the draft. You assume your first round pick, your second round pick, those are going to be good players, but you want the bargain. You want to come after the draft as the winners, and the only way you do that is by getting the bargain basement guys lower down the draft, getting yourself a steal.
We have a history of unlocking and showing everybody who these steals were, even ahead of time, whether it's Trey Flowers a couple of years ago, whether it was Grady Jarrett. The PFF grades have really showed us a bunch of the sleepers. So let's run through about 10 of them right now in no particular order. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills getting Wyatt Teller, guard out of Virginia Tech, a guy with 4 strong years, 4-year starter, 4 strong years of grading in our system, number 53 overall on our board, and they get him in the 5th round.
Yeah, and we had a second round grade on him in our draft board before this process, so to get him in the 5th is fantastic. He was our number 53 overall player on the big board. Brings the nasty, as the offensive line guys like to say. He's got that mean streak in the trenches. That will be a really nice addition for this line.
I think Teller could be starting sooner rather than later for the Bills up front. Let's go right into our boy now, Maurice Hurst, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, going to the Raiders in the 5th round. He was our 3rd overall player because we're not taking off-field into account. We're not taking injuries and now a potential heart issue. We didn't take that into account with our draft board. The NFL obviously did. He was off a number of boards. He kept dropping, and the Raiders, they get him in the 5th round. That's going to be a steal no matter what the medical situation really is.
Yeah, if he plays any kind of length of time whatsoever, he is going to work out better than your average 5th round pick, so it's already a bargain. But it's not all about the heart thing for him. We were hearing from NFL teams that some guys had a 2nd or 3rd round grade on him, talking about his imperfect tape and the fact that there were flaws to his game, and that's true. Nobody has perfect tape, but the idea that he had worse tape than some of the people that were going ahead of him is lunacy. He was our number 3 overall player, the highest single season grade we've ever seen from an interior guy. He was an absolutely dominant force in the trenches for Michigan, both as a pass rusher and as a run defender with that penetrating style. He is going to translate at the next level because the grading is just too good for it not to.
You're right. He wasn't perfect. He was only a 96.4 overall in our system. That's out of 100. That's the highest grade we've ever given an interior defensive lineman. And Sam, we've got 3 years watching these grades translate from college to the NFL. Our defensive line grades translate extremely well, especially at the high range. So assuming the heart's okay, got to trust that Maurice Hurst is going to be a productive interior penetrator at the next level for the Raiders. And they had a couple other pretty nice picks as well.
Yeah, Nick Nelson, cornerback, and Marcel Aitman, wide receiver out of Oklahoma State. He was our number 4 graded wide receiver last season. 87.9 grade. We had a 3rd round grade on him and a 2nd round grade on Nick Nelson. They got both those guys much lower down the draft.
Yeah, so good Day 3 value for the Raiders. Let's go to the New York Giants. They did not get a quarterback in the 1st round. They went Saquon Barkley with their 2nd overall pick. We thought maybe they should have taken Sam Darnold there, but they circle back and get Kyle Lauletta in the 4th round. A guy that the more we watched him internally, we had guys like you, our friend Mike Renner, trying to push me to move him up our draft board. And we did. We ended up with a 2nd round grade on Lauletta, and the Giants get him in the 4th.
Not just me and Mike, though. Zach Robinson, former NFL quarterback, was okay with the idea of pushing Lauletta above Josh Allen. So
above number 7 overall pick, Josh Allen.
This is a guy we had at the top end of the 2nd round, had a high 2nd round grade on him. Thought there was a possibility he could sneak into the back end of the 1st with all these other quarterbacks. He was our 7th ranked quarterback. We kept him below Josh Allen, but he's right there. Number 47 overall on our big board. He had some real legit skills that could potentially lead to being a franchise quarterback down the line. And this in the 4th round could end up redeeming this New York Giants draft because they passed up the opportunity to take a franchise guy number 2 overall.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of Josh Allen. He doesn't have a great arm, fantastic accuracy, especially short area, intermediate passing. He was the number 1 graded quarterback in the nation last year and outstanding at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. So Lauletta has a chance to really make his mark in New York. And by the way, we did grade him higher and had him higher on our draft board than Davis Webb, who they drafted last year, and people were talking about maybe being the next guy behind Eli Manning. So I think we like Lauletta a little bit better than Davis Webb to be the next guy behind Eli. Let's go to the other New York team, the Jets. They get Perry Nickerson. This is your boy, cornerback out of Tulane. They get him in the 6th round, but we had a 2nd-round grade on him.
Yeah, not just mine. He was jumping out off the tape for every analyst that did a Tulane game over the past few years. He was constantly making plays. We had a 2nd-round grade on him. 10th ranked cornerback. He was a really impressive playmaker. Allowed a passer rating of just 39 when he was targeted this past season. I think just 1 touchdown in that span. Plus, he made one of the greatest interceptions in the entirety of college football last season. Elevated, took it away from a wide receiver deep down the field, one-on-one, and then got up and finger wagged the quarterback from 55 yards away.
So you give him extra bonus points. Did you move him up around for that?
That's worth at least a round.
Also ran a 4.3 too. That's why he was able
help
to make those plays. It shows up on the field, that speed late in the route. He can really close quickly on deep balls. Washington Redskins, they get Greg Stroman, another cornerback now out of Virginia Tech, 7th-round pick, and we get him in the 3rd round as far as our draft board goes.
I really liked some of his tape, and his coverage numbers last season were absolutely obscene. He allowed only 12 receptions all year, 12 catches given up in a year. There are guys that will give up 12 catches in a single game. He allowed a passer rating of just 26 when he was targeted on the season. There was legitimate shutdown coverage out of him almost all season for Virginia Tech.
The Houston Texans did not do a whole lot on day 1. They didn't have, or day 1 or 2, they didn't have too many picks. But day 3, they had a couple nice picks, including Duke Ejiofor, an edge defender. He goes in the 6th round. We had him as a 2nd-round type of grade, not an explosive, special type of edge rusher, but a guy who just wins consistently, and he did that in the PFF system for 3 straight years.
Yeah, 3 straight years grading in the 80s. This was not a strong edge rusher class, and despite that, we had him with a pretty high ranking in this list and thought he could actually be an impact player.
Number 60 overall on the PFF draft board. Probably fell because he's not the most explosive guy. He just wins with his hands, but he wins pretty consistently. The Los Angeles Rams, 5th round, they get Obo Okoronkwo, the edge defender out of Oklahoma. He's a little bit undersized. We put him in the 2nd round because he's been so productive during his career at Oklahoma, but I thought that the undersized part of his game might drop him a little bit. Yeah. I'm not terribly surprised, but I think because he just consistently won in college on the edge, certainly worth a look.
Well, look, both those guys are classic PFF kind of players. They're guys that were incredibly productive, but they slip because they don't fit that height, weight, speed. They don't tick all those boxes that the NFL are looking for. But Obo was incredibly productive. We had him as our number 4th ranked edge rusher in this class, number 40 overall. Had the 13th pass rush grade in 2016. 26th last year, was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year this year, I think. This guy has been incredibly productive and did it against impressive top-level quality competition, both in the Big 12 at times and at the Senior Bowl. This was a guy that some people simply cannot block because he is a shorter kind of pass rusher. Some guys really struggle with those undersized, short guys that can win with leverage.
Yeah, and with the Rams scheme, they're used to having undersized guys over there sometimes with Wade Phillips. I think that's actually a really good fit for Obo at the next level. Let's go to the Seattle Seahawks. We were talking about them maybe addressing the offensive line early in the draft, but they're going to get maybe a steal later in the 5th round. It's Jamarco Jones, a guy that we had a 2nd-round grade on out of Ohio State.
Yeah, and we thought about pushing him towards the 1st as well. We looked through his tape, and outside of one of the worst plays anybody has in their tape.
Show me what he did again.
I can't even. It was some sort of one-handed swipe and fall over thing.
He missed whatever it was. He
missed badly. But outside of that, his tape was excellent and actually worth some serious consideration of moving even higher than that. He was our number 32 overall player in the big board, allowed just 11 total pressures last year, 3 sacks in his entire college career, working in the Big Ten against some extremely good pass rushers.
Mike Renner, our expert in the trenches, said he's got the prettiest pass set in the entire draft. That also pushed him up a few notches. So Jamarco Jones, hey, the Seahawks could have a potential starting offensive tackle in the 5th round. That is outstanding value. Now it's time for your boy. The New Orleans Saints get Boston Scott, 6th-round pick. Just go ahead, rave about Boston Scott. Why do you love him?
I'm a little bit sad that he went to the Saints because they already have Alvin Kamara. They've already got Mark Ingram. There's not a whole lot of opportunities for Boston Scott to make his thing happen. But when you look at what he was doing last season, he crushed the PFF grading system, was one of the best graded guys in the nation. Our 10th ranked running back on this draft board. We had a 3rd round grade on him, but he had the 3rd best elusive rating in the class. And that's our metric that tries to separate what the running back is doing from the blocking. So it's looking at broken tackles. It's looking at yards after contact. And for a guy who's 5'7", 200 pounds maximum, where this guy made an incredible amount happen after contact, averaged almost 4 yards per carry after contact. His tape is just full of incredible plays, sick jump cuts, dragging people for contact or for yards after contact and breaking tackles.
Don't worry about the depth chart. The Saints always find a way to get their running back some touches. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, be productive with Drew Brees under center. Let's wrap it up. The Dallas Cowboys, Cedric Wilson, wide receiver out of Boise State, a guy that we had an early 3rd round grade on. And another one of those receivers in this class who maybe doesn't do anything exceptionally well, but does everything well enough and extremely productive in college.
Yeah, he's an interesting receiver because he's tall and he's lean, but he's got some speed to him. He made some plays at the Senior Bowl, jumped off the tape at times, and he kind of flashes big-time talent all the way through his tape. Had the 2nd most yards on contested catches in the nation last season, almost 400 yards just in contested catch situations. I think this is a guy, when you look at that depth chart, there's nobody that would terrify you away from getting significant snaps if you prove in training camp that you're a guy that can make plays. I think Wilson could climb this depth chart pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's going to be with one of our other favorites, Michael Gallup, who they got in the 3rd round. And you're right, there's plenty of footballs to go around there in Dallas. Wilson reminded me a little bit of Mario Manningham, the way they, size, could play in the slot, play outside, and also made a Manningham Super Bowl catch along the sideline against Virginia. So that really stood out on tape as well. There you have it, 10 steals from day 3 of the NFL draft. There was still plenty of talent on the board. And these 10 players, I think, are going to make an immediate impact in the NFL.